So I have this theory about why Stanley Kubrick made A Clockwork Orange after 2001. And the short answer is that he didn't get to make his dream project Napoleon, but there's a lot more to it than that. The thing with Kubrick is he never repeated genres consecutively except for these two films, which are both science fiction. They're set in the future with plots involving technology that doesn't exist. There's something to be said about these two juxtaposing visions of the future and how they vary, all because of what happened to Kubrick in between their creation. If you look at 2001, it's his biggest movie. He has all this control now, and he's still pretty young, and he's essentially at the height of his artistic powers. He has all the energy of youth, along with the experience of a director who's had control of almost all of his films, and he's been on this trajectory of bigger and bigger projects. So Napoleon was at the apex of this, and I feel like Kubrick kind of knew that he was ready to make a true masterpiece. So in pre-production, he was doing his usual vast amounts of research, and for Napoleon, he cataloged the man's entire existence. Napoleon was set to be a culmination of all the things he'd learned from making 2001, Dr. Strangelove, Lolita, and even Spartacus, and of course Paths of Glory. He'd reached this point where he could really push the limits of his own potential as an artist. I can only imagine how exciting it must have been for him when he was prepping this massive project. He was set to rent actual armies to recreate the battles. They had paper uniforms made for the extras, along with a lot of actual historical items that Napoleon had owned to use as props. It was all coming together, and then MGM pulled the plug. I think that broke something in Stanley Kubrick, and that disappointment caused him to lose some faith in humanity. And I think all of that is reflected in his vision for A Clockwork Orange. The ending of 2001 is easily the most optimistic moment in Kubrick's entire filmography. In my reading, the Star Child is the next stage in our evolution that started with the monolith at the dawn of civilization and culminates in this ending where the Star Child comes back to Earth to begin our progression to something more. So the movie is saying that humanity can one day progress to something better, something more enlightened. Kubrick believed all of that when he made the film, and I think the implosion of Napoleon crushed that optimism. And this newer, deeper cynicism is apparent in A Clockwork Orange, which is about human beings and their inhumanity to each other. I feel that perspective stays with Kubrick for the rest of his filmography. There's a clear split in the tone of his work before and after 2001. Kubrick was never a full-on optimist, but there was still some hope in his work up to A Clockwork Orange. All his films after 2001 are much more emotionally detached and cold, because they're informed by a perspective that this is an imperfect world that will deny someone of true genius their full potential. It was right in his grasp, and it was taken from him. That disappointment and the resulting cynicism is in A Clockwork Orange. It's there in how his vision of a society of the future has changed, from something clean and advanced to something dirty and regressive. It's sad to see someone get so close to their dream and lose it, and I can only imagine what it was like for him to have to put that away, knowing that it was never going to happen. It's strange though, because if he had made Napoleon, the rest of his filmography would be completely different. You get Napoleon, you're trading A Clockwork Orange and Barry Lyndon and probably The Shining, because I really doubt he would have used Jack Nicholson again after having him play Napoleon. I think that he didn't work with him again after The Shining says enough. And Barry Lyndon would have been redundant if he'd made Napoleon. And I really doubt he would have had the anger and the negativity on society to make A Clockwork Orange after getting to make his dream film. It's a lot to consider though, because even if he got Napoleon made, then we would lose those three films and all the iconic quotes and shots that come with them. It's hard to say if it's a worthy trade, because there are plenty of directors who made their dream projects and they didn't end up cutting together. So who's to say what could have been? When you look at the last moments of 2001: A Space Odyssey and compare it with the contrasting vision of the future that follows it in A Clockwork Orange, He's going back to the same genre, but this time it's on Earth. There's no optimistic future developments, moon bases, or any of these new exciting things. There's just rape and violence and corruption and all the horrible things humanity has been doing to itself since forever. And that point of view came much more into focus after Kubrick lost Napoleon.